Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Inc., New York's window company, Capital One Bank, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from AVR Realty Company, LLC, Briarwood Organization, Beechwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman and Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. Siami Construction, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackel Realty Services, M&T Bank, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Meridian Capital Group, The Moynihan Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Newmark Knight Frank, Orphanides and Associates, SJP Properties, Sterling and Sterling Inc., Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, The Witkoff Group.
Hello, my name is Michael Stoller. Certain people call Jersey City the sixth borough, but there's a lot of things happening in Jersey City, and people don't know what's happening. So today I brought together 4 people who live, work, know what's happening in Jersey City, and even Hoboken, which is right next door. My guests, they include Robert Anticinello, who is the Executive Director of the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency. David Barry, president of the Applied Companies, Jeff Persky, a principal at SK Properties, and last but never least, a returnee, George Philopoulos of Metrovest. So George, since you and David had also been on, you went to Jersey City, which was a project that was helped by the Redevelopment Agency.
Correct, yeah.
The old Jersey City Medical Center. Let's
Right.
talk about the Beacon. What's happening? You took me out there about 2 years ago.
Yeah, you did
I was
come out,
very
right?
impressed. I got to go see the lofts now. So what's happening? Who's living? Who's moving to Jersey City? What's going on there?
Well, the first phase, where we call them the conventional condos, 315 units, were fully occupied, sold over 90%. The buildings did very well. If I had to say right now the percentage of people from New York moving to Jersey City, it would be very high. I'd say 6 to 7 out of 10 are coming from New York City. They're either renters in the boroughs or in Manhattan, or they're just priced out of the New York City market.
Now, Jeff, you and David or just opened the building in
Correct.
Jersey City. Tell me a little bit about the building, and you have another building also in Jersey City.
Right. Well, Dave and I, about 10 years ago, we were dealing with the redevelopment agency with Bob's predecessor, and we were both trying to buy a site from the redevelopment agency. And people introduced us, and we decided to do it together. So actually yesterday we've opened up the first building. It's 349 rooms, 16 stories. It's a luxury apartment house. And I think we're going to do very well. And we're actually jointly planning our second building on our second site.
Now where are these sites in Jersey City for my viewers? I mean, are they near the path, or are they near Journal Square? Where are they?
That particular site, 225 Grand, is pretty much located on a light rail station. It's walking distance to the Grove Street Path station as well.
And who are the renters? Who's renting in your buildings?
I think what we're finding, similar to George, we're getting mostly younger people. And a lot of the 50% of them, based upon our other building, we also have a building at the Grove Street Path station. About 50% of the younger people are coming from New York. The balance are coming from New Jersey. But I think what you're finding in New Jersey, and Bob, you can address this, is the age of the people is getting a little bit older. You're starting to
yeah.
see strollers. You're starting to see children, whereas 4 or 5 years ago we really didn't see strollers or children in Jersey City. We're now starting to see that.
Now, David, you and your family have been involved with Jersey City, what, 20 years?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, Port Libertad and all this. So what have you seen over the years? I mean, 25 years ago, there was nothing really in Jersey
Yeah.
City.
I mean,
Port Libertad was a failure originally.
Yeah, that was originally a previous developer had done that. We bought that from the banks. But, you know, we've really seen Jersey City evolve tremendously over the last 20 years. I think that the development and the gentrification, in a sense, was a lot spottier back then. I think that now the fabric has really been all stitched together. So whether you're in Paulus Hook or Liberty Harbor or downtown by Exchange Place in Newport, I think that the whole fabric has really come together in Jersey City. I think it's a very vibrant place to live, to work, and it's really come into its own as it, you know, it's no longer a bedroom community. I think it's really a city in its own right, and I don't think that was as true 20 years ago.
Yeah, Jeff hit something right on the head. 5 years ago, for sure, started to see the strollers come out. Out of the last 50 sales that we've had at the Beacon, we've had 30 people come with toddler-age kids or expecting toddlers, which is an enormous percentage jump for us. So our kid population went from, I'd say, around 15 kids to 50 over the last 14 months.
You know, people don't understand the magnitude of what the Beacon was. I mean, when the Jersey City Medical Center was built, it was built in the height of the Depression.
The first Depression.
The first Depression. Not the people didn't call it a depression. This one. And I mean, how many buildings were there?
There are 10, about 2 million square feet. You know, the buildings were built with nothing to. You know, dollars were insignificant. FDR and Frank Hague were very close, and FDR, allegedly his first stop after election was the site of the Jersey City Medical Center and the Great Lawn, which is now our 2-acre park, addressing the residents with a blank check. So, I mean, the magnificent buildings.
I mean, you have bowling alley. You had.
Well, actually, what we've done is we've had a lot of fun with the spaces because they're there. I mean, you couldn't do this. You couldn't have it replace this new. It's impossible. I mean, most of the trades don't even exist anymore. But yeah, we have 50,000 feet of amenities just for the first 2 buildings. I mean, there are 5 theaters throughout this complex. One that's just a resident event space, and one that we're restoring now to make an independent film house, 350-seat film house. So there's observatories on the roofs. I mean, there's just all kinds of space.
Now, a part of what happened for all of you was due to the redevelopment agency, because that's what happened. The redevelopment agency, like being in New York City, the Economic Development, EDC, they really helped. So what are you doing? We were talking prior to the show about the redevelopment of Journal Square, which may take. Tell us a little bit about that.
By the way, the agency is now celebrating its 61st year. It's one of the oldest redevelopment agencies in the country and first to use federal dollars. And the city had always been very progressive in terms of how they use the redevelopment agency. You know, our focus today is on a few things. It's one, supporting existing projects, George's project, Jeff's project, Dave's project, and a number of other projects. 2 is it's kind of pioneering new areas, and Journal Square is one, 244-acre plan that really kind of pioneers density. We think it's the post-Obama really redevelopment plan for a downtown where it really.
Tell me a little bit. I mean, 244 acres is a lot of property.
I think, you know, this is a plan that really goes out over the next 40 years. We're looking at Jersey City in the year 2050. But really, right now, the focus for this plan is on the core, which is essentially the Journal Square path transportation stop, where essentially 8.4 million people use the path every year, and another 8 use buses and jitneys out of that site. But you don't know that there's 16 million people passing through the square because of the way the Port Authority re-engineered it.
So what's the
back in the
initial
70s.
thoughts to do in this site over the next 5 years?
Well, if you look at Journal Square and you take a look at Oakland, for example, and I think that's a good example for us. When Jerry Brown was mayor of Oakland, he said, "How do I revitalize downtown Oakland?" And he had a number. He pulled a number out of the air of 10,000 housing units. He felt 10,000 housing units would generate 25,000 people injected into downtown Oakland, and you'll revitalize it. We had pretty much the same idea without realizing what Oakland was doing, and that's where Jeff came in, that's where the Harwoods came in, that's where Panepinto came in, that's where the Port Authority became our cheerleader and began to put money on the table to begin to kind of develop these high-density core where we can put those people there. The balance of the other 230 acres, there are pretty much kind of low scale resident retail.
But how, will we have major towers like you have on the waterfront in Jersey City?
Yeah, 68 stories to 45 stories. You won't find a building there less than 40 or 45 stories. So you're talking about major density within the core, and then basically graduated density as it tiers out over the balance of that redevelopment area. Also talking about reinstituting light rail on the street, narrow gauge trolley system, one mile to connect essentially where the beacon is to further north, so that we have more transit-oriented development. What we find is every time we put light rail, we just spur additional development. Now, this is something that we've known for over 100 years, but at the end of the day, it really works for Jersey City.
Now, do you think you don't have light rail now?
No, we have a fleet of buses that shoot 0.6 of a mile down Montgomery Street. So I joke that I got into real estate to actually get into the bus business. But those
buses are free.
They're free because I pay for them, yeah. But it's a quick ride. I mean, it's just straight down Montgomery. It takes 6 minutes back and forth. So.
But the light rail is very important. I mean, Jersey City, since you've seen it over the years, the light rail helped. Now,
light rail and path.
And path. Now, 48-story towers. It's not, somebody said, if they build it, will they come? Newport took a number of years. You had some good tenants. You're still competing with New York City.
We compete with ourselves, too.
And you compete with yourselves also.
A Journal Square location, in many ways, Jeff's Journal Square location competes with his downtown locations.
Right.
But here's the interesting thing to keep in mind, Mike, with this. When you looked at the Jersey City waterfront 25 years ago, you'd say never in a million years would you see that. And so when we take a project that we think is out there, we're cutting edge, and we go to a city council with it, and they say never, we just have to point to Newport, we have to point to Colgate Center, we point to Harsmith's Cove, and then they say, I get it, and we can move on, because we do get it.
I think, if I could,
Please.
I think one of the real amenities of that area is the PATH station. About 3 years ago, Dave was putting up 400 units at Grove Street Station. We were virtually next door, also at the station. We put up 468 units. I would say within a year, we were both full. We fully absorbed close to 1,000 units in a year's time. So our strategy was exactly what Bob was saying. Since we were so successful at that path stop, we decided to go one more path stop. And I know it's a challenge, but if you get on the path at Grove Street, where Dave and we both have buildings, in 5 minutes you're at the old World Trade Center stop, and in approximately 18 minutes you're at Herald Square. So to go to Journal Square, you're only adding on another 4 minutes.
Here's a question. SK has been in New Jersey for 50 years. How do you decide to go to Jersey City?
I came to Jersey City because we were in the process of buying 3 industrial buildings in South Brunswick. And we were buying them from someone in New York. And he said, let's meet in Jersey City to finalize the contract. And as I drove into Jersey City, I took one look. This was about 2000. And I said, we need to be here. That's how I came to Jersey City.
And how about you?
Well, I really started out in Hoboken and Jersey City, so it was just where I started.
People talk, how far is Hoboken from Jersey City? Aren't they?
They border each other.
They border each other. I mean, but what, and you've just opened up the W in Hoboken. Is there a different personality of the people who live in Hoboken than Jersey? And there's also office space in Hoboken. What's the difference between the personalities of the people and the companies who work in Hoboken, Jersey City, or are they the same?
They're pretty similar. I think that, Jersey City probably has a little bit more of a finance bent, if I had to say, like in terms of what, what drives that office market. I think Hoboken is a little more eclectic than that, publisher, some of the pharmaceutical companies. I think in terms of the profile, it's roughly, it's fairly similar. I would say that Hoboken has more of a traditional urban fabric, that's been around there. It's got its brownstones and its townhouses. And, Jersey City is a little bit more high density. The living options tend to be more high rise, very highly amenitized.
That's an important point. It's what does the city aspire to be? Hoboken has always aspired to be Victorian Brooklyn. Jersey City has always aspired to be Manhattan. So Jersey City is a much more vertical place. Office market, 19 million square feet, a little bit bigger than Orlando in terms of Class A office market. Hoboken's a much more smaller market. But I think that's important going forward because as you begin growing cities, Hoboken being essentially a Victorian city has no place to grow. So essentially their tax base now, it can't grow. So essentially their taxes begin to go up. Jersey City has multiple options to grow to get an edge on our ratables. And not being afraid of going vertical, you'll find that over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, Jersey City's waterfront within a mile will begin to look more like Hong Kong. When you begin looking at all the development, the amount of density that you have there, and that'll tear back into Journal Square as a second ridge on Journal.
Now, another interesting thing is, you know, a number of people who live and work in Manhattan or in New York City go to Jersey City because of the sales tax savings.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, New York City, the sales tax is 8 3/4, and in Manhattan, any clothing over $110 is subject to sales tax.
A third of Newport's shoppers are New York shoppers. You know, people don't realize that Manhattanites are a huge part of Newport Mall.
Well, there's a Home Depot right outside
and Home
the
Depot,
tunnel there, yeah.
Home Depot also.
And that's a UEZ zone. Too.
That's why UEZ, Jersey City is the largest UEZ zone. It's also the largest in terms of how much it collects by far, and then Elizabeth is the second.
It helps, yeah.
What about industrial? Jersey was known, I hate to say the Garden State. What happened in the industrial market in Jersey City? You're in the industrial business. You have some properties which are industrial.
Well, I would say, like everything else, there were a lot of the buildings were old manufacturing facilities, and they've gone the way of all the other manufacturing facilities in New Jersey. They've just left for cost reasons. So there's been a higher and a better use for a lot of these buildings. There still is distribution by exit 14B. There's a large area there, and I think A&B has approvals for a big building out by...
A&B will start early next year for 880,000 square foot distribution center on the west side of Jersey City.
That's
But
on 440.
I think Jeff hits an important point. You know, within the last 20 years, we kind of made the decision that, you know, industrial was not going to be part of our future, and part of bedroom community and part of the office market. So, I mean, I toured on Monday with the Port Authority, the last of our industrial zones, and, you know, we're maximizing them, but really at the end of the day, we have a much, in terms of relocating industrial out of Jersey City, we have a relationship with Newark, and we'd much rather move it into Newark and keep the jobs within close proximity of Jersey City.
Now, something interesting happened last year, the end of the year, and I don't think they moved in there. And this was always the competition between Manhattan and Jersey City, is Jersey City was able to pick up depository trust.
Yeah.
They moved out of New York City, but the key was, as many people said to me, the incentives were so great.
Yes.
Now, the Jersey City incentives, the state incentives, it was like $48 million.
Yeah, it was a huge amount of money, and the city stepped in with UEZ money over $2 million of city funds. The state stepped up very, very big on this one also. And it's 1,500 jobs for the Newport area.
So what do you see, I mean, since you've been like the pioneers over there, what do you see the next step for the applied companies in Jersey City? What's on the horizon?
I really think there's just a tremendous amount of opportunity that still exists in Jersey City. So whether it's, you know, the Paulus Hook area, like I said, right now we're very active in the Liberty Harbor North area. You know, to be specific, I don't really need to be specific because I think there's a lot of transportation links and a lot of, you know, kind of great drivers in Jersey City right now, whether it's Journal Square Path, Grove Street Path, etc. So our strategy in Jersey City is really opportunistic. We like the city. We think it's growing in the right direction. It's got a municipal government that is committed to innovative growth, and so it's a place that we just look for opportunities.
I think our future there is mostly residential, although we're now looking at our first retail opportunity.
So what type of retail opportunity? A big box? Or?
Probably big box. We're just starting to formulate it now. And I also think, based upon our Journal Square project, we do have the ability to do office up there. And I think we can provide new buildings, fresh buildings with higher floor-to-ceiling ratios and power and things like that. And I think, based upon today's economy, I don't think we have much of a chance of attracting an office tenant. But over the next 5, 6 years, you never know. And I do believe if the state can straighten out its current tax situation, that we will be able to provide the companies with these incentives to come over.
I have a big question. You just completed an apartment house, and probably in the worst economic times to get financing. How were you able to get financing when you built this new apartment house?
I'll answer from my perspective, then I'll give you Dave. Dave can give you his, but I think we got in right under the wire.
I think that's true, and I think also it had very strong sponsorship.
The sponsorship is not the question, but it didn't even matter if it had strong sponsorship. The financing market was closed for a year and a half.
I mean, it does matter, though. I mean, I think that the financing, to say it's closed, it's largely closed, but I think, on the basis of our sponsorship, it being a great site, we were able to kind of renegotiate our costs to get to where it made sense, and I think probably put up a little more equity from our own pockets than we would have had to put up, say, several years earlier.
Now, I remember when you were on the show a number of years ago, when I've had Mitch Hirsch, who's like the poster boy for office in Jersey City, he was talking about the cost to construct in Jersey City as compared to Manhattan is like a 30% difference. Why is it so much different?
And down about 20%, I would say, over the last 2 years from that low level.
But why is there such a big difference? I mean,
in construction costs.
The materials are the materials, right? I'm not.
I think it's the labor, and it's some of the difficulties of executing in Manhattan make it more difficult. The staging, the cranes, and maybe the labor's a little bit more expensive.
I agree with Dave. I was going to say, I think it has to do with implementing the construction in Manhattan. It's so difficult.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when I went to visit the Beacon with you a number of years ago, you were working on another site in Jersey City, right?
Right. No, now it's all about the Beacon for us. I mean, we're in construction on 3 buildings at once. We have the Mercury Lofts, which is an accidental project. That was 103 units, and that was an example of a project that, at the time, we could not get condo financing to finish it as 103 units. But again, we were able to get financing because banks have been involved in the Beacon over the years, and we're committed to actually seeing the project through. But there was a period post-Lehman where everyone was just paralyzed with fear. So what we did is we had to go back. We had so much into the building at that time. We decided we were going to do something radically different, and we finished it with 3,000 and 6,000 foot lofts. It's humongous apartments.
Now, construction in Manhattan, in New York City, was aided by, as we would call them, 421A tax abatements. Has residential development in Jersey City had similar tax abatements?
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost across the board, tax abatements are necessary for a variety of reasons in Jersey City.
And how many years have these tax abatements been?
They're usually between 10 and 20.
Yeah, they run the gamut. There were some 30 years out there also.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're nearly as favorable as the New York City.
That's a good point.
We have rent.
We don't have them anymore. They are no longer here, so that's the bigger problem. The only way you can build an apartment house, a rental apartment house in New York City, is with tax bonds where 20% is affordable.
Yeah.
Now,
well, they're favorable in the sense of giving you, basically clarity over the long haul, which today is more important than ever because with revals and people's taxes going up, skyrocketing, a 30-year tax abatement is unbelievable because your taxes are not going to change. It's that introductory rate, if you will. There's
the teaser.
Well, the 421As in a building that had bought a unit in. There were a lot of famous people that were paying 0 taxes for the first few years and phasing in. In Jersey City, you'll pay $3,000 for 1 bedroom, but at least you'll pay $3,000 for
So
30
I'm going to
years.
bring up a tough question, and any of you can take it. And the biggest problem is, how do you take care of affordable housing in Jersey City for the people, the working people over there?
Yeah, I'll handle that. This administration, the Healy administration, has basically made workforce housing a priority. We've got 3 projects that we are presently doing. Actually, we just completed 1. We have 2 of them under construction. Now workforce for cops, teachers, firemen, nurses, retail managers. And a lot of our work now is finding sites and expanding this program.
And what type? I mean, in New York City, I can tell you specifically, they're subject to the AMI, which is 76,200.
We go to 120% of area median income. So there are so many units that are committed to 50% of area median income, 80% of area median income, And it's important for us to go from 80 to 120% of area median income. Now, we do other projects. We'll do tax credit deals at 60% of area median income. But we want to make sure that we're always spreading these projects across the city and making sure that at some point a rising tide floats all ships. And if you're working in a powerhouse arts district and you have a 10% affordable housing contribution, like Lloyd Goldman had, we've taken some of that, half that obligation, brought it up to the heights, built 45 units. So, you know, once again, it's a priority to kind of be creative and try to spread this out.
So what you've done is you've moved the affordable component out of the buildings, which in Manhattan, you know, if they were tax buildings, 20% of the units had to be affordable within the property.
See, I think if given the option, our developers, and we have the best of the best in New Jersey, if they shouldn't have to build it in a vertical tower. You know, if their obligation to build affordable is for the residents of Jersey City, I can find a terrific location throughout the city, right, where we can where those dollars can go farther than they can building a vertical two-bedroom apartment on the 24th floor with a view of New York.
But you've done it.
Yeah,
You've done it at Harriet Tubman Homes.
We've done it at Harriet Tubman. We've done it at Summit Heights. We've done it at Mary Norton. And I think what's happened at this point, and I know Dave looked at one of the projects, and the existing affordable housing obligation was really a killer on 110 First. So our point is, let's get it out of there and let's move it elsewhere. And we can actually get twice the amount of units and actually leverage it. And that's important for us to do it that way.
Any other thoughts before?
On that point? No, I think Jersey City's, you know, the most important thing for a city like that is just to continue to get investment. And I think that, you know, when that's the main goal, and with that investment coming in, you know, the city can work to kind of decide how much goes to affordable housing, how much goes to luxury, how much goes to office. But the main thing is that that city is committed to making it reasonable for guys like us to invest there, and then that floats all ships in a sense.
I think, you know, if anyone, as you said, or I've heard over in the show, 25 years ago, no one would have believed this would have happened in Jersey City. You know, it's happened, it's changed, and all of you have made a change and made Jersey City what it is. And I'd like to thank all of you for being here.
Thank
Bob
you.
Anticello, David Barry, Jeff Persky, and George Philopoulos. Next week, we got these guys who do some restaurant business. See you next week.
Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Inc., New York's Window Company, Capital One Bank, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from AVR Realty Company, LLC, Briarwood Organization, Beechwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman and Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. Siami Construction, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackel Realty Services, M&T Bank, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Meridian Capital Group, The Moynihan Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Newmark Knight Frank, Orphanides and Associates, SJP Properties, Sterling and Sterling Inc., Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, The Wickoff Group.